Hey y'all, let's talk about mental health. Something came to me and I was like, oh, I need to share this, right? So I was reviewing the case note the other day and it got me thinking about mental health. If mental health could be passed down. You know how they talk about like diabetes and hypertension and like cholesterol issues, and it's like, oh, it could be passed down if it's already in your lineage, right? But what if I told you that it doesn't necessarily have to be passed down just because it's in your lineage? So same thing with mental health. So this particular case, right? The patient was having some mental issues, and they were needing a whole different, a lot of stuff. There were complaints of anger and blah blah blah. And then if you go down to like the family history, you would see that the patient's parent, one of the parents, had allegedly committed, the of themselves through a car accident. And then the interesting thing was the father of that parent did the same, but they blanked themselves instead. So that's the history there. And then funny thing on the other parent's side, they have bipolar, anger issues. The parent of that other parent also had like schizo and some other things going on, right? And so now you present with this grandchild and this child, and they're going through it. They're angry. There's complaints about different things when they're in the classroom and stuff like that is going on with this child. And so, it's on high alert. And the environment they had said was like always angry, like parent and everything. So in my head I'm like, is it more the environment or is it the person? Like, if that same person was taken away from that environment and put in an environment that they were just giving them love, and it was not angry, it was peaceful, whatever, will the same thing occur? Will they still have all of those anger and mental issues, or is it really in the line, right? And something that is not spoken about a lot is sometimes when we, especially those of us in the functional medicine space, when we're talking about like health, things that go in your mouth present themselves how they present themselves. So now, however it's presenting itself, especially if it's mental, that means you have some chemical imbalances that are causing some other things to be very hyper than more balanced. So if that situation were true and some diets were changed and things like that, will the same thing still occur? Will it still occur? So, like for instance, let's talk about the most popular like blood sugar issues, right? If they say, oh, if your parents had it and your grandparents, and so people just accept it and be like, it's been in my family for years. But what if I told you the way, you guys in your maybe in the family, there are certain traditions that have been passed down that you have also inherited, and it's normal to you, but it's also the reason why you're having those same familial issues happening. So it may be the way you've been taught how to cook and add this and add that, and you're eating those, but in your body it's causing inflammation. And because every member in your family, especially when it's been passed down, is cooking like that, you think it's okay, but then in your gene is expressing itself as maybe diabetes all the time with every different family member. So maybe it's not necessarily something that's in your family, it's just the way that you have been exposed to the environment that you're in, the food you eat, the things you've been passed down, and it's like, oh, this is normal for me. But what if they took that same person and you put in an environment where the diet was totally different? Will that same gene still express itself? And so, just going back to like mental health, and women who are dealing with PCOS, that's polycystic ovary syndrome, that is also something that could present itself, because when you're dealing with a whole lot of things when it comes to PCOS, the weight issues, growing hair in places you don't care about, um, fertility issues and things like that, it could start affecting your mental health. And most of those women end up either having dementia, Alzheimer's, anxiety, and things like that. So could are there certain things that could be controlled to not get to that level where you're talking about mental health issues? And mostly there are certain things that you can remove from your nutrition that could help you get to not express those genes, if it's something that you say is in your family. they could actually be reversed. But yeah, that was just something that I found interesting, how different issues were appearing in different generation, and it was, categorizing itself as mental health in this particular case. So that's something I wanted to put out there. And a solution might just be what you put in your mouth. But yeah, follow for me. I say follow for me. Follow me for more tips if you like this content. Take care. Bye bye.